The Well Founder podcast is proudly brought to you by 45 Fusion. Tired of low-quality leads that never turn into real sales? At 45 Fusion, we don't just get you leads, we get you buyers. With our Educate and Convert system, we turn your expertise into engaging content, put it in front of your ideal customers, and only book meetings with those who engage. The result? More high-intent leads who already understand your solution, so sales conversations move faster. We're so confident in our system that if you're not happy with the lead quality, you don't pay us a penny. Ready to get more high-intent leads? Visit 45fusion.com to learn more.
This is the Well Founder podcast.
Oh, welcome to the show, Michael. It's an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I am loving my podcast. This podcast is allowing me to connect with so many interesting founders that are building really cool stuff out there, man. So I'm loving about these chats. And today we're going to be talking about your company, Agency Folk, which is a very interesting company, interesting name as well. I always like to know how the name came about. But before we do that, could you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us who you are and how you go into the work you do.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of background. My name's Michael, obviously. I'm a graphic designer by trade. That's what I went to uni for. So that's my background. And I worked for a few years in the industry for other agencies, and then started my own agency called The House. We're a branding and marketing agency. So that's been going for 15, 16 years. And I've enjoyed that process and enjoy agency life in general. Then about 6-7 years ago, started a framework called StoryCube, which is available online, and it basically allows businesses to tell their story, to inspire, pitch and sell with ease. So that very much came out of all the work we did at The House with a variety of clients in the UK, in Europe and beyond. And then most recently, which is probably what I'm going to talk most about today, is Agency Folk, which is a community for agency leaders. And I started that in late 2022, just as things were opening up again after the pandemic, at least in the UK.
It seems like it never happened now. Like from what the madness of 2020 till like you said, 2 years after all the what was the stuff, lockdown and all that, social distancing, all that scary shit. Excuse me. You could swear. And it feels like it never happened now. It's really strange, isn't it?
Yeah, we've really moved forward. And I think especially in the event side of things, I was talking to a few others the other night about this. It's really ramped up. It's like we remember what we missed during the pandemic, the human contact and being able to go out when we want and where we want. And so it's even more important now, and people realise it's like you realise when you've lost something how good it is, so you want more of it. And I think the events space, conferences, exhibitions, all of that is really ramped up, especially in the last 6 to 12 months.
It's really good. Feels good to go outside again and do things like normal human beings anyway. But yeah, let's talk about Agency Folk. As an agency owner myself, I'm very, very interested in that. And obviously you've come from this awesome background, like 15-year agency. It's quite that's a really, that's a solid agency. I don't want to use old agency, but it's not a little agency.
I like the word established.
Established, there you go. That's an established agency. Is that still running, or have you okay?
Yeah. So I balance my time between running the agency, The House, and everything I do for Agency Folk actually supports that. The more people I meet at Agency Folk events, the more opportunities there are, the more potential projects there are. So it feeds back in, and then the kind of stepping stone between that is StoryCube, which is potentially a DIY version of brand storytelling, because there's online courses people can do themselves. So whatever the opportunity, whoever I meet, if they want to have support with their branding, I can either give them one-on-one consultancy through the agency and my team, or we can direct them to StoryCube. But if they don't want that support and they just want to meet other agency owners, then we've got the community as well. So they very much support each other.
Very interesting. All right, then tell us, you've talked about community a couple of times now. I'm guessing, is this like an online community of agency owners assisting themselves, getting help, stuff like that? What does the agency folk look like?
Yeah, well, it's online and in person. I try and mix it up so
Mm.
that as many people as
Wow.
possible can join. I'm based in London, in the UK, so a lot of the in-person events happen at the moment in London, in and around London.
Mm.
Obviously, it's a draw for many people for many different reasons. Other events going on and lots of people to
Mm.
meet. So even though it's mostly London based, we get people coming from all over the UK, as far as Leeds and Manchester, Bristol, and down in
Mm.
Cornwall, and also in Europe as well. Poland, France, Spain, Italy, all over the place.
Wow.
The furthest someone has come is from South Africa, because they came
Oh, wow.
to some online sessions. They then wanted to come to London anyway for a week of events, and we were right time, right place, and they flew in and came straight to a mastermind lunch. So, yeah, at the moment it's sticking with London and major cities in the UK, but I'm thinking about opening that up and potentially an informal franchise model, so that other areas of the country and maybe other areas of the world can do agency folk events as well.
That is so cool. I love stuff like that, like a gathering of like-minded people. Like the agency world, as you know, is can be very lonely and very it's stressful. So talking to like-minded people helps. So tell us then, what does that look like? Is it more of a networking thing, or is it something I could come? I have this problem. I need this. I need help with this. Or what does it look like in practice?
Well, the phrase I stick with at the moment in terms of messaging for agency folk is community for agency leaders, particularly for agency leaders, those that want to grow their business in any way. It doesn't have to be just about profit and having many people in their team and offices. It could just be growing in terms of the right clients or getting the right work-life balance, whatever that means for them, a better agency life for them. The messaging I put out is for the three things: it's connection, it's collaboration, and it's celebration. So people who want to go and connect, first and foremost, especially in person, but also online, all my events allow a lot of time for networking, a lot of time to interact and chat. One of the frustrations I had with going to other events is that you might end up sitting and listening to someone who is very interesting, but you've got a room full of maybe 100 other people you could chat to, and you spend 80% of the time listening to the one on the stage. So I wanted to make sure there's a balance. At least 50% of the time is for networking. So connection is key. So that was sort of scratching an itch for me of understanding my problem as an agency owner, and hopefully realizing that other agency owners have that problem as well. Collaboration. People give up their time. Agency owners, any business owners, busy. So especially if they're going to come to an in-person event, their time is precious. They probably travelled a bit, sometimes 2 or 3 hours to get to the event. So they want to make the most of it. So collaboration is not a must, but it's encouraged. I suggest look at ways for referrals, introductions, tips, anything that can help someone else, and equally someone can help them, so they come away with something tangible. Because obviously if they win a project as a result of coming to an event, well, they're going to be very happy with that, and they're going to come back again, and we're all going to win, because we can't always do all the projects. So I'll give you an example. When I first started, it was literally just a lunch for 20 people, 20 agency owners. I put a message out on LinkedIn in September in 2022, slightly frustrated about sort of working remotely, not going to events because of the pandemic, feeling a bit isolated, feeling lonely as a business owner, even though I work with a team, but it was all online, so it didn't really feel real. And then the frustration with the UK economy, it was going pop, down to various governmental decisions. So all these things came together. So I put it on LinkedIn, said, look, if I booked a room and for lunch for 20 agency owners, would you join me? And within minutes, I had comments coming in all the time. And I don't particularly get many comments on my LinkedIn posts, but that was something that really resonated. So I thought, okay, I'm onto something here, and we'll bring people together. And then going back to the collaboration aspect, at the end of that lunch, not only did I have a great time and feel more energized personally, and I got the sense that everyone else kind of did, because they were asking for when's the next lunch. But then people said, "Oh, I've got an introduction. I see you do branding for food and beverage companies. Talk to these people." Even from other branding agencies, they said, "We don't really do that. We don't focus on that sector. Can you do it?" And then some agencies saying, "Actually, do you know what? Our brand really isn't up to scratch. It's been 5 to 10 years since we've done it properly. Do you want to run some workshops?" So for me, straight away, hosting a lunch for 20 people, great fun, tick. But the outcome of that was actually some tangible work, and thousands of pounds worth of work as well. So for me, it was like a light bulb moment of, why not do this? Hopefully everyone else is benefiting as well in exactly the same ways. But as the host, I was probably benefiting even more so. And then the last part is celebration. So it's connection, collaboration, celebration. As we know, any agency owner will know, doesn't matter how big their agency is, it's never easy. There's always some surprise, there's always something new, whether it be world pandemics, energy crisis, recession, AI, whatever it might be, there's always something new. So why not celebrate together? Why not try and focus on the triumphs first? So we always talk about that. Share something good, what's happening that's good in your business, personally or professionally. And then we can look at the challenges. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of time to look at challenges and commiserate together and have a good moan and have a bit of a group therapy. But I try and spin it to, let's celebrate as well, because agency life is kind of cool. We get to do fun things. We get to create some good stuff. And if we focus more on that, hopefully we'll enjoy it more and the positivity will come out. And hopefully then the opportunities will come to us as well. People are attracted to positive people, so that should help in the long run.
So cool, man, and I totally resonate with that. And I've got so many questions for you after that. Actually, there's something you said there, because as you were talking, I'm thinking, if agency owners of similar industries, how can they generate business? Like, I don't know, like say Facebook ads agency. Maybe there's 5 Facebook ads agency there. How can they generate business from there? But you said something there in terms of, we can't do this. Maybe you guys can do it for us or something like that. So there's that collaboration thing going on there. Very, very interesting. I never thought about. So that means there's referrals is more. It's more. There'll be a lot of referrals going on. Amongst members.
But it's natural. I know there's other networks which kind of sit you down and almost lock the doors and say, right, refer someone, otherwise you're not going to come back. But this is much more of a nudge. Repeatedly, depending on the event, I might start the event with just saying, look, think about who you can collaborate with. How can you help someone else today? And if, say, we've got 20 or 30 people at the event, if everyone's thinking, can I help one other person? Well, hopefully everyone else will come away with one bit of support. And it's just putting it front of mind, really. Often the case of listening to other agencies talk about their challenges, you think, actually, I could introduce you to someone, but without the nudge, people don't necessarily do it. So it's light touch, and just dotting throughout the session, particularly for full day events. I might say it 2 or 3 times just to say, just remember when you're talking, who can you help? How can you help them? You might not have a project for them, but it might be 3 months down the line. But think about it and keep them in front of mind. And going back to competition, sometimes that gets questioned. SEO agencies question it. They often say, who's in the room, particularly for small events of, say, 10 people, who's in the room, who's going to be listening to what I have to say, particularly when we're talking about challenges. But everyone else is pretty open to it. And even when I talk to the SEO companies about that, I say, well, what sector do you specialize in? And what type of SEO do you do? And which area of the country are you? There's all these differences within that. As I say, like, branding agencies will refer me work sometimes because they just don't work with food and beverage companies. They focus on tech, for example, and then vice versa. So the more niche an agency can get, the better, because one, they'll be known for something and people will start referring them work, and also they'll be able to turn away the work that's not appropriate for them, that they shouldn't do. And then they can collaborate with others that do it. And it might just be an introduction, or it might be an actual partnership and a referral scheme where they get a kickback. But it depends really on the relationship.
I love that. I really do. In terms of, I've heard that niching down a lot, which is actually something I want to start doing for my agency, as in focus and go very narrow and maybe pick one industry and then go with that, which is big differentiator there. So that's very, very interesting. So how big then is this community? And could you tell us how big these meetings are? I assume you're growing.
Yeah.
And
well, one point of difference is that the meetings or the events online or in person are all pretty intimate. So 50 people is the max, and that's online. Generally in person, 30 people is the max per event.
That's quite a lot,
It's going back to the problem I wanted to solve when coming out of the pandemic and going to events, particularly then. I didn't want to go to big events because of the chances of COVID still being rampant. Then as time's gone on, that's not an issue. But then I realised, actually, I don't like going to, say, more than 100 people events because you don't talk to 100 people. You talk to maybe 10. Weirdly, actually, less because it's so big and it's so busy. People are dotting around the place and you get 2, 3, 5 minutes maybe talking with someone high level. How are you? Who are you? What do you do? And then you move on. Whereas with a small event of 10, 20, 30 people even, depending on how long you spend with them, you can actually talk to them and get under the skin of who they are, what they do, their business challenges, maybe their personal life, maybe their family, maybe what they're going through at home, which helps understand them as a person. Maybe you have a chat with them in the morning and then you have another chat over lunch and a chat later on. So I try and give opportunities for people to get under the skin of things. And that's what I've attracted as well. We haven't really deviated from that. We may do bigger events in the future, probably this year, maybe for 50 people, maybe for 100 people. But I'm careful to cap it at that level. There'd have to be good reason for going bigger. And if we went bigger than that, I would have to think carefully about how we make sure it's still very interactive and that you come away speaking to a good sort of 10, 20 people in depth and come away with that same feeling. But it's something I'm working on at the moment. But for now, in terms of the point of difference, it's keeping it small, keeping it intimate, giving people the chance to talk, connect, learn from each other, and then have a second opportunity to do that even within that session. And whether it's networking on the River Thames, or working in breakout rooms online, or a full mini conference for the day, listening to speakers as well. The outcomes are pretty similar. It's a case of you will meet new people. Hopefully you'll find a collaboration opportunity and you will definitely learn something and hopefully come away feeling motivated, more motivated than you were before and more positive, so you can get back to the agency and hit the ground running.
I love it. I love the idea of having it small. Like for me, like I 100% agree with you. Like I've been to some bigger events where it's pretty much not necessarily a waste of time, but you don't necessarily gain as much as with the smaller ones where you actually can interact with more people. So that's very, very interesting. And I'm guessing. Sorry, I'm guessing. Do you? What does now? What do the meetings look like? Are they structured, or is it? I've been to some of these. I want to mention BMI meeting where everybody stands up and introduce themselves, and or is there some kind of a format to these meetings?
Yeah. I've got a variety. There's probably about 6 different formats. Okay. So the last 2 years I've been experimenting, testing out. Most of the formats have worked, to be fair, which makes it difficult to know what to focus on. But the 2 I like the most are mastermind lunches and dinners. So that's simple round table. It's been done for many years, but again, in terms of a USP, it's more the way I do things rather than what I do. There's a lot of competitors out there, and there's a lot of similar organisations doing it for agencies, but also doing it for other business owners. So the masterminds, they're 3 hours, normally over lunch or dinner. We have time for networking at the start. We sit for lunch and we have very quick sections for introductions and to share our triumphs. And that's just to get to know each other and make sure everyone in the room knows who's in the room. There's a guest list shared before. I make introductions in person as they arrive. But it's just, I find you've got to tell people the same thing 2 or 3 times before it really sinks in. Because for me, I know everyone in the room. I've done my research. I've invited them. But for everyone else, maybe they don't know anyone. So this is sort of all happening at once, and there's a lot to take in. And then we allow lots of time, at least an hour, hour and a half, for challenges. And I prep everyone before. So the masterminds are the most structured. It's a case of you're coming to share what's working well, but also what's not working so well. And it's you can share your challenges, and you can get to know people through that, but find them as well. So we use that as a time to really share what's not going so well in the business. But at the same time, say if there's 10, 12 people, if one person shares a challenge, at least 3 or 4 others have that challenge, and they can resonate. And then the 3 or 4 others have been there and overcome that challenge, so they can help and get to know each other. And that goes back to the collaboration, because the more they share, the more we help each other, the more we get to know each other, we like and trust each other. And therefore, later on, when you think, oh yeah, who was that SEO company? Oh, we don't do that, but they do. And they don't really get under the skin of how good the SEO company is. They just know that the founder is honest and true and will give it their best job, best effort. And so it's worth a recommendation. And the same for any industry. And then the other one is gatherings. That's the mini conference. It's full day, and they happen once a quarter. So the masterminds are once a month, and the gatherings, bigger ones, for about 30 people, although I might increase that to about 50 people next time. We have at least 6 speakers, but they're quick fire sessions, normally about 15 to 20 minutes each, and very interactive. I don't let any speaker talk for more than 10 minutes without giving the everyone else the chance to have a chat about what they've just heard. And I find the more people who attend interact and talk to each other, the happier they are, the more they get from it. Rightfully so as well. They get to think about these things, particularly agency owners and leaders and directors. They're all very bright people. They've got something to share. So to sit them down and tell them to listen for hours on end is not the right way to go. To get them talking together and sharing ideas and learning from each other, that's what really works, I think.
That's so cool, man. And you're spot on. Like, agency owners are I found very creative people. You know, our mind works differently. So 100% I agree with you on that. Very, very cool. I like that. And I was going to ask in terms of frequency, and you've clarified that in terms of the masterminds happen once a month, and then the event, the other, what did you call the other event? Sorry, the gatherings, gatherings. Yeah. Oh, awesome. I would so love to attend one of these events, which brings me to my next question now. You mentioned something about you invited them. Is this an invite-only thing, or is it open to every agency?
So a bit of both, really. So to add to the gatherings and the masterminds, there's more informal events as well. There's networking. There's a coffee club, and these kind of happen monthly, and they're much more open. Even beyond agency leaders, I kind of widen the net to say, okay, well, ex-agency owners, probably who have become coaches and consultants, or are supporting the agency world in some way and can add value. Sometimes even further afield to like lawyers and accountants and HR experts who want to focus and help agencies as well. So they're kind of like the stepping stone. The speed networking is online. That's relatively relaxed as well. Most of the time, the criteria is to be an agency owner of some kind. You could be an agency of one. That's fine. It's more about the ambitions and what you want to do and how you work as an agency. I'm actually putting together a criteria for more about the personality type, rather than I'm not too bothered about how many people and what turnover you have. It's more about what's your energy levels like about collaborating and connecting and celebrating together. We want the right people in the room with the right attitude. Because I've noticed, like, it could be a 2, maybe 5-person team, and that's what they want to be forever. That's fine. But they're just as enthusiastic and interesting and helpful as the person with 100 people in their team. They've just got different ambitions. But when they're in the room together networking, they can help each other. Obviously, they're very different businesses, but I'm still keeping that broad spectrum of agencies within the network. And then every event format has a different criteria. So the masterminds, sometimes it's very much invite only, and then other times it's here's the criteria, and if you meet the criteria, and you want to come to this sort of environment, and you sort of play by the rules, then great. Same for the gatherings as well, as we get bigger and put on different speakers. And something for the gatherings as well. The speakers themselves attract the right audience, and maybe the price point, maybe the amount of time needed to be part of that event. There's a little bit of positioning in there. We'll get the right audience in the room. But I like to vary it up with socials, which are free and simple, and in different locations, networking, online versions of webinars, just so that there is something for everybody. And as their agency grows, maybe they start attending the events with more structure as well. Something else to add, actually, in terms of the events. So the events have been what I've focused on for the last couple of years. But most recently, we've started accelerator programs. And that's for those who are really focused on growing their business. And it goes back to my experience as the House and StoryCube and running that sort of program and workshop and webinars for other entrepreneurs. But now I've just turned my attention to creative agencies who obviously are entrepreneurs and business owners. So it's the same challenge, but it's gone niche in terms of helping agencies. So we've got two programs, one called Sales Club, focused obviously on new business and sales and marketing tactics, but we do talk about lots of different things. At the moment, we've got 7 in the cohort, but we're looking to get 10 on the next cohort. And then in addition to that, we've got another one called Ops Club, which focuses on the operations, because there's a whole group of people within agencies which are helping them run like clockwork, but not really getting the communities that they need. A lot of the communities are focused on founders and the new business person and the partnerships person who are out and about and doing these things. But the operations directors and managers tend to be doing the work and being in the studio or working remotely and in the projects. They also need a community. So in exactly the same way, same format, we're bringing them together to support each other. And for those who want additional support beyond an event, they have this accelerator program to help them where they want more quickly.
Now that is very, very interesting. I assume you're talking about people like the account managers and stuff like that, like having a community for them. Wow, I've never seen. You're spot on, because it's always about the founders, isn't it? But I've never seen like a community of. That's very, very interesting. What has the response been to something like that? Because these guys, you tend to forget about them sometimes. But what has the response?
It's really good. Actually, going back to the discussion around niching, so. Agency folk is a niche because it's about agency leaders. So that's probably niche enough. But then taking it after 2 years of doing the events, working with a co-host or co-collaborator called Manish Kapoor, who is from an ops background and used to work for a big agency called Design Bridge as their ops director. He now supports agencies with their operations and helps them refine their processes so that they become more profitable. So we've partnered, and he opened my eyes to this other group within the agency world. So it's a niche within a niche. And to be honest, before doing it, I was thinking, yes, this could work, but it's worked really well because the uptake from that audience is great. He has a good following already and is well known in the industry. And so people trust him. So that's great. But just putting it out there, giving them the opportunity to sign up to something. We've tied in some webinars and in-person events, as well as the program to help sort of bring it all together and give people stepping stones to join. But it's great. These events are actually, and this outreach is sold out more quickly than anything else. So there's an untapped market that 2 years ago, if you asked me, I would have said, no, I've got no interest in that. And I don't think they would want to sign up. It's all about the founders and the new business person. But that's me speaking as I'm putting all the challenges of my audience in my head and thinking about me personally. That's what I would want to do, but not as a official operations director. I need to put myself in their shoes and see what the challenges they have. So the events, the programs have solved all their challenges in exactly the same way. I just didn't realize that audience required it or wanted it. So there's always a chance to go more niche and learn as you go along. And I think we'll probably, in 2 years' time, I'll be saying the same story about a different audience and saying, actually, it's operations directors in branding agencies in this city that really made things happen for us.
It's so true, man. That's so interesting. Like, I'd never crossed my mind even. Like, I can even see agencies sending their staff to you guys. Go acquire some skills from. Oh wow.
Well, that's so. In terms of purely business point of view, I mean, for agency folk and any agency community or any business community, that is a growth area, because there's only so many founders, and they only have so much time. They can't go to every event. And they probably feel guilty about it. I think every founder, anyone who comes to events, generally has in the back of their mind feeling like they're not really working, although they definitely are. They're meeting people, they're making connections, getting opportunities, but they feel like, oh, I really should be sat at my desk and doing some work. So they only have limited time. So if they can then give the opportunities to their staff, and allow them to get out and about and meet new people and experience what it's like to represent the business, even better. And it turns, from a business point of view, from agency folk, it turns the market from thousands of people to hundreds of thousands of people, because there's all the staff members. So it's just, in my mind, it's about creating the programs and the events which are right for the right audience. So when generally at the moment we say agency leaders, and in my mind that means probably they are a director officially, but they could also be a decision maker. There's some very good managers and or generally leaders of agencies which haven't quite got the title, but they make decisions and they can go out and about and make those decisions on behalf of the agency. So it's kept a little bit broad for that reason, to allow people to come in and join the events without feeling like they're in the wrong place.
All right, so let's talk about pricing then. How much does it cost? Could you tell us what that looks like? Say an agency owner is watching this now and wants to join one of the sessions. What does that look like for them?
Yeah. So I want to make it as fair as possible for agencies. And small agencies particularly have a tough time with budgets, but even big agencies, they have to justify being away from the office of these things. So generally, I look to cover costs of hosting the event. Online events mostly are free. Sometimes there's a small charge, say £5 or £10, to encourage early sign-ups and to encourage people to turn up once they have signed up. For in-person events, things like net walks and socials and coffee clubs, anything a bit informal and that doesn't take too much organisation and doesn't cost for like room hires and all that, they tend to be free. But sometimes I'll put a small charge in there just to get people to turn up. And also in return probably buy them a drink as well. So they're basically covering costs. Sometimes I try a couple of times a year to do some charity events as well. So if I know that the social aspect is free and doesn't really cost me anything, then I want to encourage the sign up. So I'll donate all the money to charity as well, which is great for uptake because people tend to sign up more quickly because they also know they're doing good as well as helping themselves. And then for the more formal stuff, masterminds, mastermind lunches and dinners, the gatherings, they will require room hire, service charges, staffing, food, etc. So they require a fee to cover those costs. But even so, they're between £50 and £150, so relatively affordable. And I think, and based on feedback, people get a lot of value from that. And in comparison to other similar networks, you could be paying £300, £400, £500 for a very similar full-day event as well. So I'm not saying I won't get there in the future. We may require that, and we may have the demand to sustain that. But at the moment, I try and keep them as affordable as possible so that everyone can get involved and they don't have to really think about the pricing.
I love it. I was expecting something a lot more, actually, based on the value and you've been dishing out. But okay, that's really awesome, actually. It makes it, I see you guys are building at this stage. So yeah, that makes sense. Question then, let's wrap up. 2 more questions that I have for you. What is the future plans for this? I know you mentioned talking about conference, but where do you see this going in 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah. So, I mean, thinking about competitors, or I term them collaborators, there's a lot of particularly agency networks and communities in the UK. I could think of 10 off the top of my head, and there's probably more. There's a lot of informal events as well. People like myself who've decided as an agency owner, let's host a drinks night, let's do a walk, let's have lunch together, and then probably started enjoying it and maybe formalised that a bit more. So looking at what they do and learning from that, because it's impossible not to, and knowing what makes a good business in any way, I'm sort of leaning on my experience as the house as an agency and working with many different businesses. It makes sense to go down the subscriptions route, to have a membership. We don't have that at the moment. It's free to join the mailing list, and you'll get updates weekly about the events and other things going on in agency world that will help. So at some point, there probably will be a membership. I've just got to work out the pricing and the timing and when it's right for the audience. And then what that means, will that be a Slack group online so people keep in touch and get more value? Will it be another sort of online community? Those sort of things. But generally, we're going to do more events. I do one a week, online or in person. Probably will increase that. I mentioned earlier in our conversation about expanding to different cities as well. So co-hosts host up in Manchester and possibly in Leeds, Birmingham, and talking to some that are going to do it in Norwich as well, just to see the appetite is and to allow the co-hosts to get a name for themselves, but also allow us to expand across the UK, because it's great having London events and people can get there relatively easy, but it's also very convenient and helpful for others to have something more local. So just to mix it up. And then the programs, the accelerator programs, that's probably the main route. And it's our kind of membership. It's the membership I want to give that gives real value. So it's not for everybody. There is a higher price point attached to that. At the moment, it's $375 a month, but you're getting one-to-one coaching from experts. You're getting a small cohort of up to 10 people to support you. You're getting lots of online and in-person events, month in, month out, either over a 4-month period or a 12-month period. So I'll continue with those, because I like that aspect of meeting agency owners, helping them with their challenges, giving them lots of value, and having a more intimate membership. So at this stage, not overly keen on getting thousands of agencies. I'm more focused on getting maybe a few hundred that I really know well, and will know by name and will almost understand what's going on in their personal lives as well. Just so it's more about a tight knit, high quality network, rather than something much larger. Obviously, other agencies can join the mailing list and the light touch events as well, so that we will have a bigger community. But those who want to go in more depth will have that opportunity through the programs and those more structured events.
Love it. Excuse me. I'm a big fan of the smaller than the having thousands where nobody knows who. I like the idea of knowing everybody and maybe not getting too personal, but at least knowing what's going on in there. That for me is more valuable anyway.
Yeah,
I love it. So
my biggest challenge. Sorry, just to add to that, that's my biggest challenge at the moment, of keeping the same vibe, the same essence that I had 2 years ago. It's so tempting if I put my business head on and the business model head on for an event. The bigger the event, the better it is, and an easy life. But that doesn't mean it's good for the audience. So I'm trying to keep focused on the mission and the vision to help agency leaders connect, collaborate, and celebrate together without going too big. Otherwise, it will lose that, and it will lose that touch, and people will stop coming to the event. So, yeah, it's always a tricky thing. There's always something to learn.
So true. So true. So based on, speaking to you, I could tell you're very, very knowledgeable entrepreneur. You've built an established agency. You've networked with hundreds, I should say, of other agencies. So you must have because I like to wrap up with a final tip for our audience. So if there's one thing you could share with or leave us with with your experience, what would that thing be?
Yeah. I kind of selfishly do what I do. I would say network as much as possible. Go to different events. Go to events that scare you. Go to events that you wouldn't think of. Experiment. See what's out there. Go online, go in person where possible, because it's really important. You get much better connections. See what works for you. And there's a lot of discussion at my events recently about how to network effectively and efficiently, because it is tiring, it is time consuming. You do feel guilty. You're away from work. You come back to 100 emails. You come back to lots of challenges and tasks, depending on the size of your business. So there's little tips of how to start and end a conversation at a networking event that's polite and positive and gain something for both sides, but you get to move on and talk to someone else, that sort of thing, and how to pick your event carefully. And then once you've done that and seen what's out there, start to write down what works for you. What do you like going to? And then potentially, this is the clincher, start hosting. Host your own events. Be the connector. Be the person that brings everyone together. Get on stage, your own stage or other people's stage, and stand out a lot more. And that's when things will really start happening for the business. So it's good to go to other people's events because you'll learn a lot, and you obviously don't have to do much. But hosting it with a bit extra effort, you can reap lots more rewards. As I say at the start, like, opportunities will come your way. People will start mentioning you to others. You'll connect the dots. You'll start possibly having your own mailing list and be able to help others and connect the dots for them as well. So yeah, if you can do that, I'd recommend it. And just starting small is fine. An online roundtable session for 10 people, it's low-hanging fruit, relatively easy to do. And if you like that, then maybe take it in person, maybe go a bit bigger. Whatever basically works for you as an individual. I'm doing what works for me. But that doesn't mean that bigger events or different events are wrong. They're just ones I haven't tried yet or don't fancy because I've got the formats at work already.
I love it. Networking is key. It's one thing I love about hosting a podcast as well. It allows me to connect with so many awesome people. Michael, this has been a really awesome chat. Especially, it's been a selfish one for me, actually. I kind of like because I'm an agency owner, so this I've been very, very interested in this combo. But I'm sure it's going to help our audience in some way as well. Where can our viewers go learn more about you? Possibly, maybe even, want to come to one of these year events. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so for agency leaders and even those who are sort of loosely connected with the agency space and want to help agency leaders, two things. My LinkedIn profile, I think quick search on LinkedIn for Michael Murdoch, and feel free to connect with me. I do lots of posts there, and you'll be able to keep up to date with what's going on. And then the website is agencyfolk.com. That's agencyfolk.com, and all the details are on there about the events and the different formats. And there's a mailing list that you can sign up to for free. So if you're an agency leader that wants to meet other agency leaders, to connect, collaborate, and celebrate together, that's the place to go.
Wicked. And we're going to include all of that in the show notes. Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure too.
The Well Founder podcast is proudly brought to you by 45 Fusion. Tired of low-quality leads that never turn into real sales? At 45 Fusion, we don't just get you leads, we get you buyers. With our Educate and Convert system, we turn your expertise into engaging content, put it in front of your ideal customers, and only book meetings with those who engage. The result? More high-intent leads who already understand your solution, so sales conversations move faster. We're so confident in our system that if you're not happy with the lead quality, you don't pay us a penny. Ready to get more high-intent leads? Visit 45fusion.com to learn more.